It's been a great afternoon. I've really enjoyed all of the lectures. This lecture that I'm going to do is going to be a little bit more practical for us. So my disclosures are, I have no relevant disclosures except that I have been known to talk about food just a little bit too much. So the learning objectives that I'm going to be hopefully getting you through are, what is the difference between what products are marketed to do versus what they actually do? Secondly, why is it important for healthcare professionals to know the difference? And thirdly, how healthcare professionals can teach clients to empower themselves. So companies are out to sell. Often companies target vulnerable groups such as children. So the first thing that comes to my mind are McDonald's Happy Meals. I remember when I was a child, I wanted McDonald's just to get that toy in the Happy Meal. Also, toys in cereal boxes. So you see here we have an example of Lucky Charms. You have a little car in there. And to be honest with you, All Brand Buds with Psyllium doesn't market towards children with toys in it, does it? It's usually the cereals that aren't very nutritious for us. So here we have a comic. It says, our new product has no fat, no cholesterol, no calories, no sugar, no salt, and no preservatives. The box is empty, but it has exactly what everyone wants. So are substitutions for the real thing okay? When it comes to digestive health, can a product like Greens Plus replace broccoli, kale, and asparagus? So the company boasts that Greens Plus is a synergy of 29 nutrient-rich superfoods, sea vegetables, and high-energy herbal extracts. The first nutritionally complete whole food powder. One serving of Greens Plus delivers more organic vitamins, essential minerals, and antioxidants than 5 servings of fruits and vegetables. Reality check. How can 3 teaspoons of powder reconstituted with water deliver the same nutrition as 5 servings of fruits and vegetables? I really don't think so. What about vegetable juice? So here we have V8 juice as an example. The company boasts that V8 100% vegetable juice provides 2 nutritious servings of vegetables in each 8-ounce glass. So reality check. V8 juice is 87% tomato juice with the other 7 juices added as flavoring. Where is the fiber? So once you take the nutritious vegetables and you pull out of the fiber out of them, you have the juice left over. People think that they're actually getting 8 different vegetable servings by drinking this juice, and they most definitely aren't. Not to say that they're not getting some nutrition. They are getting the phytochemical lycopene, which is healthy, and if they're choosing the low sodium version, they are getting a pretty good product there in terms of getting some of the vitamin C in. But no, they're not getting 8 different servings of vegetables. What about fruit bars? So here we have the Sunripe Fun Bites, and there are lots of different types of these dried fruit bars out there, and you can see them sold as either strips of fruit or little pellets of fruit. So the company boasts that 100% fruit that goes anywhere you do, almost like taking a banana or taking an apple and putting it in your purse. It's the same thing the company boasts. So reality check. If you look at the ingredients of the fruit bars, you see here that we have a lot of fruit concentrates, fruit purees such as pear, elderberry, blueberry, lemon juice concentrates, and lastly you see apple powder. What's apple powder? I even found a diagram of apple powder there. If you look at the nutritional facts of this product, you can see that one bar has 120 calories, and if you go all of the way down to the vitamin C, it has 2% of our recommended daily allowance of the vitamin C. So an apple has a lot more vitamin C than that. And also, I do want to point out that if you look at the sugar, there's 29 grams of sugar for that bar. An apple has half the amount of sugar. So have they gone too far? These products may boast that they are full of phytochemicals, but once the original food is manipulated, is the phytochemical content the same? Heat, light, and water all affect the chemical molecules. Are you still getting the same benefits? I really don't think so. And what about the fiber content? That's what all of these products have in common. The fiber is taken out of them, and the manufacturers are trying to boast that it's the same as eating a fruit or a vegetables. So let's look at fiber in products in general. It's a very confusing topic for consumers. There are many different types of fiber that act differently in our bodies. And the average consumer does not know the difference between soluble and insoluble fiber. So what is the difference? So soluble versus insoluble fiber we're going to look at, whole grains versus refined grains, prebiotics, which we've talked about a lot this afternoon, versus probiotics. So let's look at soluble fiber. Soluble fiber forms a gel in our intestines and provides bulk for our stools. It benefits people with diabetes, heart disease, obesity, and irritable bowel syndrome. Food sources include oatmeal, oat bran, barley, psyllium, legumes, lentils, vegetables, and fruit. Insoluble fiber, there's some flaxseed there. Insoluble fiber increases the transit time of our small intestine. It benefits people with diverticular disease, constipation, and irritable bowel syndrome as well. And food sources include wheat bran, whole grain breads and cereals, flaxseed, and skins of fruits and vegetables. So let's look at whole grains in general. When we think of whole grains, usually people think about the wheat kernel, but there are many whole grains that have a similar composition. When we look at wheat, barley, buckwheat, corn, rice, spelt, and teff, we're looking at a whole grain. And when we dissect the grains, we take out you can see here, the endosperm is the middle part of the grain, and then the bran makes up 14% of the kernel, and the germ makes up 3% of the kernel. The germ and the bran are where the fiber is and many other nutrients. The endosperm doesn't have a lot of nutrients. Its main composition is a complex starch. So it's interesting because when we look at all of these grains, you want people to choose grains that, number one, are whole, but number two, have more germ and bran. For instance, teff is I don't know if you guys are familiar with it or if you've seen it, it's a very, very small grain. It's almost it's like the tip of a pen. That's how small it is. And it's mainly made up of the germ and the bran, not a lot of endosperm. So you want to go for grains that have more bran and germ. So once we refine grains down, you can see here, visually, the white rice, you can see that the bran and the germ is removed. And in terms of brown rice, it's intact, and you can see it. And you want to tell people that. Now, we talked about prebiotics, and Dr. Marshall especially looked into, we were talking about different prebiotics in terms of supplements. Now, let's talk about where you can get prebiotics as food sources. So the two that are put into different products are chicory root and oat hull fiber, typically. So this is what chicory root looks like. It's a root vegetable. It's similar to Jerusalem artichoke. And oat hull fiber is usually the fiber that's thrown away when an oat is dissected. So they take these two fibers, and chicory root, the indigestible component of it is called inulin. And when you're reading labels, you want to see, if you want to see what type of fibers in there, typically it's labeled as inulin. So prebiotics help stimulate the growth of probiotics. It's almost like the food for the probiotics. The prebiotics are sitting in our colon, and when the probiotics, the live probiotics, enter into our colon, the probiotics will use the prebiotics to proliferate. But if you have too many prebiotics and you overdo things like inulin in your diet, this can actually cause a lot of gas and bloating. So if people are told to increase their fiber intake in their diet and they start reading labels and they choose products that have inulin, if they choose too many products with inulin, if they're eating granola bars all day, and I'm actually going to go through some products that have inulin in them, they may feel very bloated. And I actually had a client just last week who was eating 4 or 5 granola bars a day and was so bloated, and I told her, stop eating all these granola bars and I'm sure your symptoms will go away. You're nodding, yeah. So in terms of probiotics, we touched on this earlier as well. They're healthy bacteria that are promoted as having a positive effect on our digestive tract and immune system. And actually 70 to 85% of our immunity is developed in our intestine. And probiotics, in terms of where we can find them in yogurts, cheese, and supplements. And they may benefit certain people who have irritable bowel disease, travel-induced diarrhea, gastrointestinal viruses, constipation, as well as lactose intolerance. And they're strain specific, so they're studied in terms of improving our digestion, boosting our immunity, strengthening our gastrointestinal immunity, and promoting regularity. So each strain is studied in terms of how they're going to help our digestion and immunity. So now we want to talk about fiber confusion. And I'm going to look at a few different products that may confuse consumers. Firstly, smart pasta. So here on the left, we have Catelli's Healthy Harvest multigrain pasta. And I know it's difficult to see here, but if you pick up a box of this pasta, it's dark. You can see that it's not a white pasta. And this, I don't know how many have you, I'm sure you've seen this product out there. Catelli's Smart Pasta boasts that it is high in fiber. So let's look at how much fiber is in each product. Here, the first one is made from whole grain durum wheat flour. So it's a whole wheat flour. And it has 8 grams of fiber for an 85-gram serving. Whereas the Catelli Smart has as well 8 grams of fiber for an 85-gram serving, but you're not getting the same type of fiber. So the Catelli pasta actually has inulin added into a white pasta, and people think that they're getting whole fiber. If they're told by their doctor or their dietitian to increase their fiber intake, it's confusing. They're not getting a real fiber that's a soluble fiber that's going to help them reduce their cholesterol level. They're getting a prebiotic fiber. It's very different. So the take-home message here is don't be fooled by a high fiber claim. It may not be a soluble fiber that's going to help you reduce your cholesterol level or keep you full. We see a common theme here, Kraft Dinner Smart, just like Catelli Smart. They're using a positive word, and consumers are thinking that they're buying a product that's going to help them. And I don't know about you, but Kraft Dinner doesn't really help us in terms of adding fiber to our diet in general. So this is the old Kraft Dinner. You can see the original, and it's very white, it's very processed. And Kraft Dinner has 1 gram of fiber for a 3/4 of a cup serving. If you look at the Kraft Dinner Smart, I was wondering this. I actually didn't look into this until I did my lecture. What is it? Are they putting inulin or are they putting something else? It turns out they're putting a half a serving, which is 1/4 of a cup of freeze-dried cauliflower. And I think that they're using freeze-dried cauliflower because it's white. If they used freeze-dried broccoli, it would turn the Kraft Dinner green, and the kids would say, no, 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 I don't want that, because it's obviously the market they're going for. Or maybe even adults, you never know. This actually, interestingly enough, This product actually has 5 grams of fiber per serving. No, it's not from the freeze-dried cauliflower. There's inulin added as well. So they're doing a double whammy on us. They're saying there's some freeze-dried vegetable, and then they're throwing the inulin in. So the take-home message here is a quarter cup serving of freeze-dried vegetable doesn't cut it as a Canada's Food Guide fruit and vegetable serving. So now let's look at bars. This is always my favorite one. Here we have the Kind bar, which is actually a pretty good bar. You can look at the ingredients here. It has almonds, cashews, dates, honey, non-GMO glucose, flax seeds, macadamias, nuts, vanilla extract, and chicory root fiber. So it's the last ingredient, and they put a little bit of inulin in the end. But if you look at the bar, I don't know how many of you have actually had this bar, it's quite good, you can see the whole almonds and the whole nuts in it. Whereas the All Brand bar, let's check out this ingredient list. First ingredient, wheat flour. It doesn't say whole wheat flour, it just says wheat flour. So that leads me to believe that it's a refined wheat flour. Second ingredient, sugar. And third ingredient, this cereal. And then we see vegetable and modified palm oil shortening. Right when you see shortening, red flag, there's some trans fatty acids in this bar, which we all want to avoid, and oat hull fiber. So here we see it's similar to the chicory root fiber. The oat hull fiber is added to increase the fiber. And then there's, if you go on, there's artificial flavors. So this is a really refined product, but it's marketed as an all-brand bar. People think that they're getting a healthy product here, and they may eat this for breakfast instead of having whole grain oats, for instance, if they're on the go. So the take-home message here is look for a bar with the fewest ingredients and whole foods that you can actually see. Wonder Plus. Now this actually surprised me. First I looked at Wonder Plus on the left. There's a bunch of different Wonder products. I've never bought a Wonder product, so I was quite interested in this. So the first one on the left, the first ingredient is whole grain, whole wheat flour, including the germ. Who would know? Wonder did a good thing, and they're labeling it correctly. Water, sugar, yeast, wheat gluten, soybean and or canola oil, not such a bad product for Wonder. And 5 grams of fiber for 2 slices, which is pretty good. And then we look at their typical, I don't know, they may have actually put some inulin in because they call this one Wonder Plus as well. So you really have to look at the ingredient list to differentiate the two products. This has unbleached wheat flour, so it doesn't have whole wheat flour, it doesn't have the germ. Water, sugar, here you go actually, oat hull fiber. So that's how they were able to say that this has plus amount of fiber, and it has 3 grams per serving. So it's most definitely better to choose the one on the left. Subway. I'm sure some of you saw this in the news a few years ago. Subway, there aren't that many darker breads to choose from. They have their Parmesan bread and their white bread. Well, they also have a 9-grain bread. So let's look at the ingredients here. Enriched flour, there you go again. So the bulk of this bread, 90% actually, I read about this, is white flour. And then secondly, water, then you have some glucose, fructose, which is sugar. Whole wheat flour is the 4th ingredient, but as I said, 90% is the bleached flour. And then they put a bunch of different grains, and that's why they're calling it 9 grains. That could be 1 or 2 flax seeds and 1 or 2 oats and 1 or 2, like not a lot of grain. And you asked to yourself, why is this brown? Well, if I keep reading, caramel coloring. That's why it's brown. So it's essentially a white bread with a few speckles of grain and some caramel coloring to make it brown. So the take-home message here is choose a bread that indicates that the germ has not been removed. And what do all of these products have in common? Well, they're all very refined. And they have high fiber claims, but is it the type of fiber that we're looking for? And they're convenient, and that's what the manufacturers play on, to make things convenient for us and to give us a message that they're high in fiber, as I said, and it's not the type of fiber we want. So the confusion is inulin or oat hull fiber versus whole grain fiber, enriched versus fortified. So enriched means that you took a grain and you pulled out some of the ingredients, and that could be the germ, the bran, which it typically is, and then you put some nutrients back in. So if it says enriched with iron, enriched with the B vitamins, they're putting something in that they had already taken out. Whereas fortified means the product didn't have it to begin with. So a good example is calcium fortified orange juice. Oranges don't have a lot of calcium, so for people who want to increase their calcium intake, maybe they're lactose intolerant, they put some calcium into orange juice, so that's a fortified product. And vitamins versus phytochemicals. We have recommended daily intakes for vitamins that the government puts out, but we don't for phytochemicals. And this is a very confusing thing for consumers. A phytochemical is a natural compound that the plant has in it. For instance, blueberries have anthocyanins that make the color blue. Soy has lignins. Those are phytochemicals. And we all want to increase our phytochemical intake. And we don't know how much we should increase it by, but we do know that it could be a very important substance in our diet in terms of cancer prevention. So how can healthcare professionals teach clients to empower themselves? So for one thing, be good listeners. If I have someone tell me that they don't cook at all, they eat out every single day, they rely on granola bars and they rely on all of the different convenience products, I take that into account and I listen to them. I don't tell them that they should be baking every day and cooking every day. I look for products that can help them choose well, and I teach them how to read the labels. So in terms of label reading, I know we have a lot of dietitians in the crowd. If you're a pharmacist, if you're a nurse, if you're a doctor, there are places that you can go to help people read labels. Health Canada on their website has a reading label icon that you can go to. And use a registered dietitian's extensive knowledge. We have, a 5-year degree in this, and we're taught the science as well as the medicine, as well as the biochemistry, so we can really help doctors do their job, and we can really help. So it's a good idea to use your dietitian as a scientific resource. So also the bottom line is the 100-mile rule. Everyone's heard of this, that local is better. Reduce the carbon footprint. Eat as whole as you can. The labeling, the food industry has made a lot of convenience products out there. It's better to try to limit packaged products, especially if you're at risk for cardiovascular disease, digestive diseases, hypertension. It's really, really hard to eat well when you're surviving off packaged goods. And the fewer ingredients, the better. As I explained with the bars, you want to, you want to look for products that don't have a lot of fillers put into them. And whole foods gives us the best of both worlds. It gives us the fiber, it gives us the phytonutrients. You can't replicate broccoli. As if you look at Greens Plus, I giggle when I look at the ingredient list of Greens Plus. You literally can't replicate broccoli. Everyone tries, and they're going to continue to try. Eat more broccoli. It's easy, and it's also less expensive, because when I have people come into my office with these big barrels of protein powder, I ask them, how much was that? $65 for this big thing, and they take a scoop every day. And in terms of never mind in terms of the cost, they get bloating from it. You're shaking your head in that regard, because they add a lot of different processed powders. It could be wheat powder, casein powder, whey powder. they add the different powders in, and it's causing us digestive upset. So I say to them, if you buy an egg or a carton of eggs, it's $3 versus the $65. Why are you spending money on expensive protein? Buy some skim milk powder and sprinkle it into your cereal. You don't need the protein powders. And as I said, believe in whole foods versus supplements. And even with the probiotics and the prebiotics, it's if we do increase our intake of the root vegetables, and we were talking about the yogurt, the Activia yogurt there has probiotics as well as some prebiotics. So if you mix a product that has prebiotic and probiotic, the probiotic will proliferate more in your system. You can add them together. And the goal is, or at least my goal, is to get people back into the kitchen and not rely on convenience. And eat a rainbow daily. And I love to say, if we look at a rainbow, why don't we, if we look at red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet, red, apples, tomatoes, orange, mango, orange, yellow, banana, green, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, kale, the list goes on. We could do blueberries, eggplant. Have a plethora of color in your daily intake. And it's fun with kids. You can even put on the fridge a rainbow and have them check off the different fruits and vegetables they've had with the colors. And preach prevention. And this has always been, I've been in the nutrition field for 20 years, and this always comes up. Prevent the problems before they start. As I said, let's tackle especially digestive problems before they start. And educate people in general on the health benefits of fiber, probiotics, and especially phytonutrients. And keep calm and eat well.